Deltarune is easy, so they turned it into a bullet hell with barely any playtesting and called it a day. I did a video on this 2 months ago, and I swore to never touch this mod since. But you all loved watching me bash my head into a wall, so I decided to download the recent patch and give it one more chance. Okay, the Among Us is still in my bedroom, so we know the mod's working. And I was told to listen to the prophecy, which I didn't do last time, so let's give it a go. Today, Jevel, the person who ruined the whole game. That is true, you did ruin the entire game for me, but haters spawned. Is that referring to me? As funny as that would be, it sadly wasn't. And once we beat up Lancer and meet the demon under the hood, this is the point where the mod starts getting difficult. But since I've already suffered through it before, I knew what to expect. And to be honest, the game felt relatively normal to me. With more than one party member, we can often spare the enemies in one turn. And when it comes to the 3 Hades Lancer's about to throw at us, they're all support enemies who weren't threatening at all. Never mind, I forgot you changed. Okay, so we're definitely getting this Bloxer out of here first. And then I think probably the Pawn Man, since you deal a ton of damage. I got so lucky there. Okay, yeah, this battle was so much easier. The rest of the field was also pretty easy, apart from this random battle against the king that ends up crashing the game. In my last video, I had to dodge this encounter entirely, but someone in my chat suggested praising an act with Ralsei. But how would this work? Because Lecture puts them to sleep, convinces what spares them, and Warning doesn't do anything. Let's just try this. I see what you mean. I didn't know that made every single enemy on screen tired. I thought that was just the Rudens. We ran through the Great Board, fighting all of these overpowered Pawn Men as we go. And just like with King, I discovered a new strat that makes him an absolute joke. But around this point is where I felt something was off. I didn't know what, so I checked the mod files and noticed that I've been playing on the old version this whole time. So after actually downloading the recent patch, I rewinded back to Castletown for a rematch with Lancer. I promise you're gonna have a bad time. Oh, you're dying. Gaster Blasters! I thought the mod was easier. No, they just made it harder. Why did you get so big? What the fuck? Is this the best you can do? Do those gas blasters not hit me? Although Lancer was made harder, the rest of the field and Great Board were unchanged. And because I was an idiot, we can skip back to where we left off. K-Round is replaced with an entirely custom Starwalker boss. And while its attacks are actually quite difficult, it uses the same code as Clover, meaning we can use the manual 3 times and pacify it in just 2 turns. Even with the increased difficulty of some enemies, I was still having no trouble at all. But that was all about to change. While trying to gather up the broken keys for Jevel, we had to deal with this encounter of a Bloxer, Ruden, and a Ruden Ranger. On the surface, this doesn't seem so bad, but remember that this mod is titled Unfair for a reason. And yes, I know we can always run past them, but I made a rule at the start where I had to fight every enemy I come across. So if I wanted to fight Jevel, first I had to prove I was worthy by defeating these 3. The worst part is that every time we die, we have to fight 2 Bloxers before heading down to the key. And these oversized Lego bricks are notorious for having undodgeable attacks. Fortunately, it's been fixed for the most part in this patch, but on rare occasions, it can still happen. And once we do make it past this obstacle, we have to do it again! I kid you not, I spent over 15 minutes trying to beat this one battle. The main drawback I was having is that I have barely any room to move, and they deal enough damage to 2-hit everyone. So essentially, I just had to get lucky that I got the easier attack so I could pacify the Ruden Ranger. And before you start typing, well, why didn't you just spare either of the Rudens first? Well, we can't spare the Ruden Ranger without having TP for Ralsei's pacify, and the Bloxer is much more threatening than both of them anyway, so the smartest decision is to take it out first. And after finally making it out of there alive, I want you to tell me how the hell I'm expected to dodge this. When we make it out of the maze, we have to fight Susie and 2 Lancers. And because Lancer's difficulty was increased in this version, what the fuck? That's new. Luckily, the second Lancer retreats after 4 turns, but even just one of them proved to be a challenge. On the next attempt, I just heal stalled for half the battle and somehow beat them. When we get thrown in prison, I notice a save point in our cell, and that could only mean one thing. Yep. That makes sense. That's why the save point's there. We're gonna have to watch this cutscene every single time. This obstacle was a very recollective of the forest, and after a familiar 15 minutes, I'm going to cry. However, I knew it was coming next, and I was not excited at all. Jevel was the hardest challenge this mod had to offer, and I lost my mind fighting him last time. He has gotten easier since then, but even after being nerfed to the ground, he was terrifying. I specifically saved the top cake and revivement for this boss, and I always had to save the top cake for this one attack, and we're dead. I was consistently getting farther each attempt than the last video, and I think the addition of the Gaster Blasters played a huge role in that. I know I've been saying that Jevil was super difficult and was the reason I swore to never play this mod again, but ironically, I only died 3 times. I wasn't in the clear yet though, because after sprinting through the castle and reading a boring manual to Starwalker again, we have to fight Jevil a second time. And because I had already used both the Top Cake and Revivement, this encounter was much more difficult. That is, unless you realize that you can just use Suzy Talk to use Hypnosis without spending TP. But I chose not to take the easy way out for now, and instead focused on spamming heal prayer until I had enough health to not die. I repeated this 5 times and hoped it'd eventually work out, but it never did, so I just kept cheating until he got tired. Look, I know it's anticlimactic, but I've endured this brutal mod for long enough, so just let me have this one. Besides, there's still a whole other chapter we need to complete, and it starts off with these werewires forgetting how to aim. Yeah, to tell you the truth, chapter 2 really isn't much of a challenge. Some attacks fill the entire screen, but every enemy deals no damage for some reason, and it's basically impossible to die. We only started playing the game again when we reached Birdly, who is now replaced with Mettaton, and while he can actually damage us, he's still nowhere close to the difficulty of chapter 1, and I beat him on my first try. But now that we're back to a 2-person team, the next boss is going to be a lot harder. There's also a tiny Jevil following us that sends us back to the start of the room if we touch it, and this was such a nice change from the old version. Originally, he would send you all the way back to the start of the Cyber City, which was very annoying when I had to run through traffic to escape. He also soft-locked the game in the mouse puzzle, but thankfully that's been fixed now, so everything beyond this point is completely new to me. And the first thing we did was jump straight into another Mettaton fight. I thought this was going to be just as easy as the last encounter, but apparently he can deal triple the damage now, and as an added bonus, he kept crashing my game. I guess this is my punishment for breezing through half the chapter. Fortunately, his attacks aren't the levels of bullet hells from chapter 1, but this damage is absurd, bearing in mind it one-hits Noelle. Then I had an idea. The werewires he summons still only deal 4 damage, so we can use them to damage boost through Mettaton's attacks. And by using that strategy alongside spamming heals, we can head towards the Queen's Mansion. The Darkness here deals slightly more damage than before, but the real star was Task Manager. She destroys us in one hit, and my dumbass decided to spare her pets first and make the fight harder. So on the next attempt, I didn't do that, and it was fairly easy. Now that I have access to the basement, I filled my whole inventory with butler juice. And if you're wondering how I got all this money, I have no idea. Me and my chat started placing bets on what we think Spamton Neo is going to be, and my guess was, it's gonna be Jevil again. Whoa, are you colored like Jevil? I was joking! I already suck at the original boss, but for some reason, this felt easier than regular Spamton. I was expecting to lose 80% of my HP every time I got hit, but to my surprise, he was dealing less damage than base Deltarune. Because I was never any good at this boss anyway, I still had to abuse items and heal prayer, and just like that, he was defeated on my first attempt. The next real enemy is Rules, who actually has an interesting mechanic. The boxes he rains down on us actually moves the battle box every time they hit against it, and unsurprisingly, he one-shots us. But by beating him at his own game, we can head up towards Queen, the last obstacle in the run. I want to get hit by one of these to see if I get one-shot, but I really don't. 56 damage. So I'm not getting one shot, I'm not even getting 2 shot. Okay. Queen really doesn't feel indifferent. Okay, don't kill me. There's a lot of text. And it's not ending. Well, that's different. That's all I can really say here. I'm just going in a circle. And everyone's dying. Well, I didn't see that coming. Ow. Okay, now we're back at this, but this time we're at full health. I'm just going in a circle. Is it over? When does that attack end? I can't see where the lasers are coming from. I can't even see Susie's health. Was that it? And just like that, with the Queen defeated, I will never have to think about this mod again. That is until Chapter 3 and 4 are released.